What is up, YouTube? Do you know that feeling when you are so bored that you don't wanna do stuff that you like to do and instead you are trying something that you normally don't like? Well, you probably don't, but that's my explanation of what you see on the team preview. Yes, indeed, today I'm bringing you an OU match, first ever on this channel, first proper OU game that I've ever had, and the only one that you will see here for a long time, if not ever. To make it interesting, I made a team based on the things that aren't seen too often in OU, with the exception of Black Kyurvaa of course, which is here just because I wanted to give it a try. My opponent is someone by the name of FaiLZz, and even though it's my first proper OU match, it turns out to be a pretty close one, so let's get going. I lead off with original Atari 2600, just so I can threaten his Starmie if he decides to lead with it, predicting my downfan, but instead he leads with Breloom. I guess it makes just as good of a check for it. He turns out to be a Techniloom and goes for a Mach Punch on the first turn, predicting my switch. Even with Stab, Technician and Life Orb, it doesn't take me out in one hit, and because Atari kicks ass, Choice Specs Hidden Power Ice does just that. So now he goes to Chansey, and this thing, oh my god, is going to give me so much trouble and make this battle so much longer, it's not even funny, but we will get to that. For now, knowing that I can't touch this thing on the special side, I switch to Maya, Source Dancing Celebi with Double Stab, Natural Gift and a Wattmel Berry. Go figure. He makes a good double switch and goes to Tornadoes, and I don't want to take a Hurricane, so I switch to Jellicent for scouting purposes. He goes for a Bulk Up on my switch, and then attacks me with a Flying Gem boosted Acrobatics, and to my surprise, El Mundo being a boss survives it even without any physical investment, but unfortunately Skull doesn't burn him, and he just takes me out with another Acrobatics, so it makes as much as no difference. I go back to WoJtOn to force his switch, and he just switches to Chansey again and sponges Stab Modest Specs Thunderbolt like it's nothing. Seeing that he can easily wish stall me, I switch again to Dawnfan, seeing an open window to set up a Stealth Rock. Meanwhile he wishes again, and I forgot that Tornado's Therian form has Regenerator ability, so I keep thinking that he wants to pass a wish to it. That is why I go for an Ice Shard right there, but not first and probably not the last time my misplay works out in my favor, because he reveals that he is carrying counter right there, and since Ice Shard does barely anything, his counter also doesn't do much to me, and I get to preserve my physical wall in relatively good condition for later. Now we both make another switch. He goes to Kaphotics, which is most likely his physical wall, whereas I go to Lucario to threaten his Chansey. He finds out right now that this matchup is better for me, since my Lucario is a special attacker and unlike Crunch, Dark Pulse is a solid 2-hit KO on this thing. Hidden Power fighting does quite a bit to me, but then he protects to regain some HP with leftovers, and seeing that I keep going for a Dark Pulse, switches to Hitran to take it. Unlike the Dark Pulse, Stab Aura Sphere does a fuck ton of damage, but just misses a KO and he finishes my Lucario with a Flash Cannon, I guess predicting my switch to Kyurvaa. I go to WoJtOn just to finish this thing with a Volt Switch, but he goes back to Chansey again and sponges it with ease. I will switch to Maya, seeing a good opportunity to set up a Swords Dance, which I do as he wishes, and then I get up to platform with another one on his switch to Hitran, which thankfully doesn't survive a Stealth Rock entry, so Chansey's switch gets wasted, and he told me after the battle that he meant to switch to Kaphotics and misclicked, so yeah, that's definitely unfortunate for him. Anyway, now he goes back to Tornadoes, and right there I make probably the worst play of the game, decide to waste my 2 Swords Dances and switch out, though it turns out I could live unboosted Acrobatics, especially that he told me afterwards that this thing was some sort of a mixed attacker. So, instead of staying in and destroying him with +4 Zen Headbutt, I switch to Dawnfan and easily take the Acrobatics. Then I decide to play it safe and go for an Ice Shard, but he sees that coming from a million miles off and gets almost a free switch to Starmie. So now I go to Kyurvaa for the first time. Shout out to my Polish viewers by the way, if there are any. Because this Kyurvaa is choice carved, I decide to lock myself on a Fusion Bolt rather than Outrage, knowing that his Chansey can take one hit and revenge kill me with counter. I probably should have let him do that, because that's what's gonna eventually happen anyway, and I could make this battle about 20 turns shorter. Anyway, back to the battle. Having no idea how to break through his Chansey, I switch back to Dawnfan to bait him to go for a counter and not a Seismic Toes, which allows me to get a free switch to WoJtOn. Then I Volt Switch to Celebi, just to do some damage, and this is the part where my frustration is taking over my brain, and I just keep spamming Zen Headbutts, predicting him to switch to Tornadoes, because after a Seismic Toes damage, Acrobatics would actually be a 1-hit KO. But instead, he goes for another wish, takes me out with a counter, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh my god, this thing is going to break my entire team. Now I go back to Donphan and hit him with an earthquake, desperately trying to bring him to the range where Kyurem's outrage can finally take this thing out. Meanwhile, he goes for yet another wish and then tries to counter my hit, but I switch to Kyurem to avoid that. Then I go back to Donphan, knowing that my only option is either to get a super mega critical hit to the max, which exists only in my imagination, or stall him out of wishes. So we are back to the square one. He wishes, I go for an earthquake, but then we both switch on the same turn again. He decides to pass a wish to Kaphotics, and I go back to my WoJtOn to bypass another counter. That actually shows me the light at the end of the tunnel, because I know that his Chansey is at about 75% of its health, and that Stealth Rock will take its toll on the switch, so if outrage will be enough to take it out, I've got the game. So Specs Shadow Ball brings his Kaphotics low enough that as he takes me out with a Shadow Ball of his own, he is at easy revengeable range. So now once again I go to Kyurem, and even after double leftovers recovery, outrage is more than enough to revenge kill him. So now he goes to his Chansey, tries to protect to confuse me, but luckily I've got a 3 turns outrage, so that doesn't happen. But then unfortunately he survives another one with around 10%, but knowing that from this range Donphan's earthquake will finish him, I keep outraging, which does exactly the same amount as his wish recovers, so eventually he decides to take me out with a counter rather than stall and wait for my inevitable critical hit. So now I'm down to my Rolling Rock, which finally takes out this damned thing that caused this battle to be so long and frustrating for me. He is able to make a last wish before biting the dust though, which is significant because now in comes his tornadoes once again, and that wish recovers a Stealth Rock as well as Ice Shard damage, which made all the difference in this battle result, as you will see soon. He bulks up twice as I keep spamming Ice Shards, but none of them scores a crit, and he eventually takes me out with +2 acrobatics, and that is the game. Good game, FaiLZz. Normally I don't do any kind of post-battle analysis, but this time I want you to take a look at the amount of tornadoes health before receiving a wish, and the amount of health on the last turn of the battle. You can clearly see that if not a wish recovery, I will take the game. So let me give you a little piece of advice. Beware of Chansey, she's one annoying bitch. Anyway, don't forget to leave a like or comment if you enjoyed this battle, and I see you all next time.